Hi, this is Greg Holcomb with the VRMA. I'm the Government Relations Director, and you are here on our webinar for advocacy during the COVID-19 response efforts and recovery efforts. I'm being joined by Matt Curtis with the Smart City Policy Group and Cliff Johnson with Rented.com. He's a VRMA board member and our Government Affairs Committee Chair.
Thanks, Greg.
So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and update everyone on some of the things that we have been working on as VRMA in terms of the response effort and the recovery and the stimulus efforts that are out there. We're working with our partners, the platforms and various other industry partners to try to identify options for us to insert the industry within stimulus packages that are happening up on Capitol Hill. But also some of the recovery efforts that are happening at the state level. We're advocating for direct stimulus for professional property managers. However, this is going to be very difficult because there are a lot of industries out there that are also asking for direct stimulus. There's going to be more to come on some of the state level stimulus and recovery issues as we move forward with this, and we'll keep you informed on that. We've launched a grassroots effort to advocate for the industry. This includes a letter writing campaign that you could go send a letter to your elected officials. If you visit that link down there, vrmaadvocacy.org/COVID-19, you can go ahead and send out that letter. That is helping us to advocate for the industry and to build momentum to try to get inserted in these stimulus bills as they come up. We are tracking the national stimulus and recovery legislation, as well as some of the state level orders that are out there on essential businesses and non-essential businesses, as well as some of the recovery efforts. And we'll try to keep you informed on those as best we can as they come out. But this, as you all know, is very fast moving in policy world and in the news cycle, so bear with us. And we have written to Congress directly. Toby Babich, our president of VRMA, has sent a letter on to House and Senate leadership asking for stimulus and for recovery funds for both small businesses, the tourism industry, and directly. And this is the letter that you will send out through that COVID-19 page on the advocacy site. It's also something that you can send through, or that you'll send that is just like Toby's letter. And you'll be able to download this letter too if you want to share it in person with anyone or read it over. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt.
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's Matt Curtis with Smart City Policy Group, and this is a very interesting time. At the same time, there's also some unique opportunities that we have to take advantage of this. Number one, we're all feeling the strain, and that we want to make sure that we're able to access any potential federal funds that might be coming our way. But more than likely, those federal funds are going to find their way directed through the state. Now, we think that it's important to contact the federal level representatives now and make sure that they understand the importance of our industry. Many of you are going to see that a stimulus package is going to pass here in the next day or so, or maybe by the time you've seen this, it's already passed. Our guess is that this is going to be the first of several different stimulus packages that come from this pandemic that we're facing. The best way that we can get organized and we can start to focus on lobbying or making ourselves known at the state levels for any federal funds that are directed to the state for then disbursement to businesses within those states, or for any federal funds as well, is to organize into coalitions. Now, we've already been doing a coalition effort with some different states in the United States, organizing some various coalitions. But now is the time to crank up that effort. And we need to start developing coalitions immediately. So beginning next on Thursday, March 26th, and then next Tuesday, March 2nd, Wednesday, April 1st, and Thursday, April 2nd, we're going to be holding an open call for a coalition building effort where we will get on the phone, no matter what part of the country you're in, and talk you through how to get started building your local coalition, and we're here to help. Now, this is as easy as organizing yourselves so that you're speaking with a unified voice and you're working within a unified strategy. We'll probably also walk you through some easy steps just to build your own statewide Facebook page and hopefully even a web presence as well. but then who to advocate to and how to advocate to them, maybe some examples of advocacy language that's been used in the past, what's effective and what's not. At the same time, developing these state coalitions is imperative because we're also finding it an opportune time to get into these states or various city ordinances and talk about creating effective change that benefits our industry. Suddenly, a lot of regulators at the state and local level have become much more open to discussion. And believe it or not, planning directors, code enforcement directors, economic development directors, finance officers, they're finding themselves with a little bit of time on their hands because they're not integrally involved in the response to the COVID situation. So we're actually able to have these conversations more quickly and more effectively. And this is a great opportunity for you as an organized coalition to do the same. But let us help you guide the way to developing that coalition. So join us on one of these calls over the next week. We'll be putting up new dates after April 2nd, where we'll have continuing open calls for you to join us. And then ultimately we'll be holding various statewide calls as you develop your coalition. And then in the meantime, I think Greg is probably going to flash up. Greg, is the next slide maybe the district directors? Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Greg is going to flash up a slide real quickly. I may have taken out of order, but it's of the various district directors for vacation rental states. There's a great way to advocate and use the VRMA advocacy tool, but what we can do is for anybody that would like an email address for the district director that represents your U.S. senator, we'll either be able to have that as part of this webinar or we can send it out later. Could we do that potentially, Greg? Or host it somewhere?
Yeah, we can send it along, Matt. And just to piggyback onto that, as the head of the Government Affairs Committee, one of the things I'm focused on is getting a point person for each of the U.S. House districts where vacation rentals are a significant contributor to the economy, so that we can build those relationships and have that point person, help advance the overall goals of the organization. So I'll be joining the calls that Matt has set up over the next 2 weeks to help identify who those people are and then help you get the grassroots movement off the ground if it's not already established in your area. So reaching out to Matt, Greg, or myself, if you're unsure of who to contact, we can help supply that information. And the hope is to get, a key point of contact for each major destination within the VRMA.
Now is the time more than ever to build coalitions, and one of the things you always want to think about is you shouldn't have to do all this work yourself. You have enough to do protecting your business, growing your business, managing your business. So when it comes to what are the economic development numbers, or what housing impact studies have been done around the country, what legal actions have been taken and have been successful or unsuccessful around the United States, we can help you with that information. You shouldn't have to recreate the wheel. So let's work together on this, develop state coalitions throughout the country. You'll be invited to join us on those calls, and then we'll be able to help you by providing you information along the way and helping you to get started.
Thank you, both of you. One of the things I wanted to share too is as we go through this and we're asking members to help us out to make sure we advocate for the industry as a whole and to work off of what Cliff has just talked about. We are, the VRMA's advocacy system actually has a relationship and interaction logging component. So if you log into that COVID-19 page, not only can you send a letter to your elected officials, you can look up your elected officials and the phone numbers, download some of the information that Matt was just talking about, the document with the various contacts on it, but you can also log any relationships you may have with public officials. We're specifically right now looking at state and federal. So just as an anecdote, one member has told me at a conference that their largest grossing property in their inventory was actually a state senator. It's individuals like that we need to get in touch with because they understand the industry. If you know that you've had guests before that are from that are public officials at the state or federal level, this is the time to try to utilize relationships that you have. And then also there's an interactive logging component of that. So if you do actually get in touch with someone or have a meeting with them, you can actually log in that interaction within the system. And that helps coordinate this information. It puts it directly into the VRMA database. So no one else will have that other than myself and lead staff here at VRMA. But it helps us guide some of the conversation and make sure that we're covering all our bases as we move forward with all of this.
Definitely.
Now, I wanted to, Matt and Cliff, if we could have a quick discussion too on some of the other, you know, reaching out and having this discussion with public officials is one thing, but some of the other organizations or groups that we should probably be reaching out to as well to help with the recovery efforts, to make sure that they're aligned with us, or, you know, once this is over, who we can talk to try to get any type of help when tourism seasons come back and people are actually traveling again.
Yeah, right. I mean, so, you know, the first thing we're hearing consistently is that when tourism does come back, it's going to come back with incredible amounts of gusto, that people are expecting the amount of folks that are going to want to renew trips that they were planning, you know, break free of the you know, pent-up frustrations of being stuck in their home for long periods of time and not being able to enjoy the experiences that they like. We're going to see people travel at a rate that we probably haven't in a long time. So that's one thing to look forward to. I know that's tough to hear right now, but it's something to look forward to and also something important to plan for. So with that, a couple of the organizations that I would mention, and Cliff could build on this as well, but we find that your local association of realtors and state association of realtors are paramount to this discussion. They typically have a really active, vibrant government affairs program. They usually have a person dedicated to government affairs. So having those people understand the value of the vacation rental side of the industry, the professionally managed side of the industry, the importance that you provide to the local economy is paramount. So associations of realtors, but also home builders. Takes a simple conversation with your local or state home builders association to talk about the benefits of the upgrades that you're doing to homes, or you're consulting with your owners to do to a home, to build a deck or to build a new home. The various owners that you represent and what they're doing to invest in construction in your area. And then finally, your Chamber of Commerce. We certainly see the Chamber of Commerce being a benefit as well. Typically, the advocacy that comes from the Chamber of Commerce is hit and miss, depending on what part of the country you're in, what city you're in. We find far greater advocacy efforts coming out of the Association of Realtors and the home builders, but I still think there's a value to going to the Chamber. And then lastly, if you're lucky, if there are any economic development elements in your community, maybe an external economic development group, somebody who's focused on growing your local economy, maybe it's tangentially involved with your city government, but making sure that those folks are aware of the benefits that you bring to the community. Again, when you get organized into that coalition and we're sharing economic development data with you, you're able to show what other communities are able to generate for their cities as far as economic impact. And there's a kind of an inferred understanding that your community certainly probably benefits more than what most people would think. When you start looking at the economic development numbers of other cities, larger than you or smaller than you, eventually people kind of come to the understanding of, hey, this is probably bringing a lot of money to our community, so let's make sure to protect it. Those would be the elements I would suggest.
Yeah, I think you've definitely hit a lot of the core ones, Matt. The one thing I would add to that is we do have an opportunity as an industry to be part of the solution right now. And so some of the best initiatives I've seen out there are taking the vacant properties that people currently have and turning it into opportunities to isolate either at-risk population or people that otherwise need to get away from, a densely populated urban market. And so a lot of these local communities are overwhelmed. We might see more of that over the next month, where there's not enough hospital beds, there's not enough opportunity to isolate people that need it. Nursing homes are definitely feeling the pressure on this right now. So I think, you know, if you have the opportunity to step up and be part of the solution in the community, which vacation rentals are often more integrated in the community than a lot of other tourism categories, doing that now, they're definitely going to be more likely to help with that second wave. While we're all feeling the pain right now, you can imagine the level of pain that the healthcare industry and hospitals and everybody else are feeling right now. So I think we do have an opportunity to help and associate with those groups. And, you know, expanding on the Chamber of Commerce and destination marketing organizations, it's an opportunity to reshape the understanding of how vacation rentals fit within the overall travel sector. I do think, you know, some of the people might be hesitant when they start to travel again to travel to places with, you know, high traffic zones. Cruises, for example, I think are going to be the ones that recover last, but even flights and hotels where people are concentrated in smaller areas, you know, they might not recover as quickly as vacation rentals. So really being, you know, the first phase of that redevelopment of tourism in your market, where people might feel more comfortable staying in a private home. I think it's an opportunity to have that conversation on a local level.
You know, just to insert one more thought, you know, the vacation rental industry, we're hearing from various city and state government officials right now that they feel this is showing the benefits of the vacation rental industry because it's a secluded stay, meaning in a time when we're talking about you know, droplet residue from, you know, interacting with other persons, and the density of people in a place like a hotel or in, you know, any kind of smaller confined space, and you coming in contact with other germs, that's less likely, if not almost unlikely, to happen in a vacation rental, because a vacation rental is solely for the individual family or the traveling group. Certainly was cleaned professionally, and there was probably a fair amount of time in between stays to allow for those germs to go through their natural lifespan and no longer be living on the surfaces that they're on. So it seems like the likelihood is a vacation rental provides a greater safety opportunity, or more safe opportunity for a family or a traveling group.
And one last thought that I had too on reaching out, and Cliff kind of mentioned it, was with destination marketing organizations or your CVBs, especially at the state level, if you're involved in them, to pay attention to whether or not they have outreach days or calls with elected officials. It's a good chance to leverage those connections to really communicate the value of the professional manager and the detrimental impact that the travel restrictions and the economy is having on vacation rentals right now. We have had members respond back to us to let us know that because of their interactions with a state destination marketing organization, they were able to talk to their U.S. senator directly to advocate for the industry and to remind them, you know, this isn't just hotels, that there are other lodging options out there that are going to need a lot of help in the coming months. So that's something else to keep in mind, and to pay attention to those emails that come through, invites. May not happen right now, but as the recovery happens, you will see those happen, come about, especially when the public officials start reaching out to hear from constituencies, because they're going to want to know, you know, how to advocate and push the funding that comes forward.
And to add on to that, you just reminded me as well, like one of the things that I've been seeing already is the rise of small business coalitions. And most of our industry fits very neatly into that category, because there are a lot of sectors right now that are made up of a lot of small companies that don't have the lobbyist power, they don't have the name recognition, they don't have the large association. So those organizations, those companies are usually banding together on a local level. And so I'm definitely seeing that happen from city to city, and a lot of communities have been supportive of it. So where those initiatives are happening, making sure that you're part of that. And there could be opportunities, like been seeing some really interesting things from, you know, essentially like a barter standpoint, where some people are able to help if they have an excess of food because they can't run their restaurant anymore, and you have something else that you can provide, you know, whether that's cleaning supplies or something else that you have on backlog. There's opportunity to help support other small local businesses in your community. And in many cases, maybe you could be that person that helps organize and make sure that the other small businesses in your community are getting through as best as they can. But there's definitely been an initiative to try to bring that up to a national level, because as many of us remember from the last recession, there wasn't a lot of support for small businesses compared to large companies that were deemed too big to fail. And so looking at, you know, the rise of people making sure that small businesses aren't left behind this time around is key.
Great. Then I'm going to ask both of you if you have any more final question or questions or thoughts to share with everyone.
You know, the first one is certainly for everybody watching the video, please participate, follow the path that Greg is providing through the VRMA outlets to voice your concerns and voice your concerns to policymakers. We're also going to share with you that information that has district directors from many of the larger vacation rental states. If you don't see one there, feel free to reach out to us or look it up for yourself. They're usually fairly easy to find, the district directors for your various centers. Be prepared to advocate to your state level, because that's where a lot of these funds are going to go. So we're going to have to be advocating to our governors, lieutenant governors, and state legislators, being, you know, asking them to make sure to understand and include our industry in any economic bailout funding. But lastly, we're only as successful at doing this as we are unified. So let's make sure to form state coalitions immediately. Again, we've been doing that. Several of you have been volunteering to do that in some different states in the United States, but let's do that more quickly in many of our larger vacation rental states as quick as we can. It's easy to do. We're here to help. Join us on some of our different web calls over the next week and any that come afterwards. And if you miss any of those, feel free to just reach out to us via email or a phone call.
Perfect. And on my end, I just I'm trying to remind people, you know, unfortunately, some of the least fortunate people are getting hit the hardest right now. And so remembering that, you know, advocacy touches everybody. And right now, I'm definitely focused on the people that are hourly employees that have immediately lost hours, such as housekeepers, maintenance techs, and other people in the industry. So I think there's a good opportunity to highlight that and help those people where you can, realizing that everybody's going through a tough time, but some people are being hit more immediately. So, you know, and I've set up a fund for housekeepers, and some other people have done similar things. So if that's something you want help organizing in your area, I'm happy to help with that. There's other people on the VRMA that are happy to help with it too, just to make sure we, hopefully there'd be some federal assistance on the way, but you know, a lot of that takes time. So.
Great. And then my final thoughts on this as well is we will be sending out a follow-up to this video to do a live question and answer with both Cliff, Matt, and myself in the coming days to week, plus Matt's calls. If you can join those on the organizing in your areas, that's highly important. And then one last final thing, we want to do a special thanks to the donors to the VRMA Advocacy Fund. This fund, its inaugural year was last year. We raised about $100,000, a little over $100,000 that we immediately put to use in creating economic impact studies and direct lobbying efforts for state bills, specifically in Georgia. The state of Georgia was targeted this year. But this year, the Advocacy Fund Committee has already raised over $100,000. Sorry, I'm trying to find the donor page there. There we go. Has raised over $100,000 already this year to support those efforts. So these are the main sponsors this year. We want to especially thank them for their contributions and continued support, especially during these tough times. And this funding this year has yet to be discussed of how it will be spent, but more than likely will be spent directly advocating for the vacation rental industry through these stimulus funds and recovery efforts. So thank you to all those sponsors or those donors, and keep an eye out for upcoming information from VRMA regarding general COVID-19 information, advocacy-related information, and the follow-up for this video to do a question and answer. And thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.